If you have experienced trauma, which means if you are a human being, you are not one. You have parts or alters with their own personalities and beliefs and way of being in the world. These parts don't just exist in your mind. There are parts of your spirit that have actually been split off as well. Your ability to integrate and oversee these personalities is what determines how well you function in society. Jesus teaches us that if we are not one, we are not his. Normally, we think that that means being one with other people, but it also refers to being one within ourselves and our individual parts. These parts, these alters, need to be gathered so that you can be one. Today, we're going to talk about integrating those parts and bringing them back home. Welcome to Spirit Stories, Conversations with the Unseen. The unseen world is astonishing, glorious, and full of light. The beings there have stories to tell of Jesus, eternity, and the laws that govern all things. I'm Dr. Jen Bessire. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I gather those stories to share them with you. We're going to talk about 4 different things. Number 1, what are parts or alters? Why do we have them? And number 3, what do we do about them? How can we integrate them? And then lastly, number 4, I'm going to share some stories of actually processing and integrating the parts. So what are parts or alters? I'm using the word interchangeably here. Parts are essentially different parts or aspects of ourselves as human beings. Everyone has them. It's a normal part of having this existence in a human body. It simply means that you are, you present in your physical body as an integrated whole, but what happens behind the scenes is actually different parts of you, different alters acting and taking the stage. Number 2, why do we have them? Well, the first thought is that it's simply the way we are made. According to psychology, we are made of these parts. Bessel van der Kolk, in his wonderful book, The Body Keeps the Score, this is a fantastic book for processing trauma. He says, quote, "We all have parts. Right now, a part of me feels like taking a nap. Another part wants to keep writing. Still feeling injured by an offensive email message, a part of me wants to hit reply on a stinging put-down, while a different part wants to shrug it off." Parts are not just feelings, but distinct ways of being, with their own beliefs, agendas, and roles in the overall ecology of our lives. Faith systems and religion also talk about these parts. If we look at The Science of Getting Rich from Wallace D. Wattles, he talks about how to create abundance in your life. And his definition, I guess, of why we have these parts, he talks about the formless stuff of which all things are made is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive and is always impelled toward more life. In our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in both the Doctrine and Covenants and in the chapter of Abraham in the Pearl of Great Price, the term that's used is intelligences. And intelligences are basically parts of spirits before they're made into complete spirits, or sometimes it's thought of the spirit before it comes to earth, but an intelligence is associated with light. And so God has more intelligence than any of us do because he is more complete and has more light. So we are simply made of these different parts. If you've done any intuitive work with yourself to tune into your body, you can see that different parts of your physical body, your organs, your glands, even different parts of your body have their own intelligence and their own way of communicating with you. So it's simply the way that we are made. However, parts can also come from trauma. We all have trauma. It's just a part of normal life. It doesn't have to mean anything very graphic. So we all, as a human being, experience individual trauma as part of our lives. There's always collective trauma. There's also collective trauma in societies and cultures. If you think of all of the world wars or any of the smaller wars, these are collective traumas that happen. The Great Depression in the United States was a collective trauma. Your generational patterns that you've inherited, if you have generations in your family that have experienced abuse and trauma, you have inherited that societal, cultural trauma as well. And then the last place that we get these parts from with trauma is what I'm going to call intentional trauma. Satanic ritual abuse, or SRA, is a form of abuse that is done to intentionally create altars in individuals so that those people can be controlled and used for evil purposes. Those parts or those altars can be brought forth when a certain personality type is needed to do or perform a specific task. And I'm going to give you an ask right here. YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube and not listening to the podcast, is probably not going to like some of these terms and these words. So if you find this helpful or useful, please help me spread this by sharing it with other people. So number 3, what are systems for integrating the parts and the altars? So we have all these parts. Do we need to do anything with it? Well, not necessarily. If you feel like life is going great and you're functioning just fine in society and you're happy in your relationships and with everything, there is absolutely nothing that you need to do. You only need to address this if you feel like you're really struggling, if you feel like you've had generational trauma patterns, if you've experienced trauma yourself that you're fully aware of, if you're simply having patterns or experiences in your life where you are really struggling, it's very likely that you have some underlying part integration that needs to happen. So there are lots of systems, but there are 2 that I'm currently aware of. One of them is fairly popular right now. It's called internal family systems. And again, in this same book, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk says, every major school of psychology recognizes that people have subpersonalities and gives them different names. Richard Schwartz is the individual who developed internal family systems. And at the core of IFS is the notion that the mind of each of us is like a family, in which the members have different levels of maturity, excitability, wisdom, and pain. The parts form a network or system in which change in any one part will affect all others. And Bessel says, the IFS model helped me realize that dissociation occurs on a continuum. The parts, according to IFS, they're not just passing emotional states or customary thought patterns, but they're distinct mental systems with their own history, abilities, needs, and worldview. Because they are locked away inside, IFS calls them the exiles. In this case, I'm just referring to all of these as parts, not distinguishing between an exile and a part. I would call them the same thing for my purposes and what we're talking about today. The next system that I've just recently become aware of that I want to share with you for healing parts and alters, specifically for dealing with multiple personality disorder, is called Behind the Curtain by Keith Redford. And he has developed a system for integrating these parts. And so I'm going to leave a link to his information where this video or audio is. Now, let's talk about what do you do about these parts. This was a very cursory overview of parts, but I want to give you some stories of how they can be integrated. You don't have to go see a therapist necessarily. You may or may not. And this is not medical advice. I'm simply sharing my experiences. You need to do what you decide is best based on all the information that you can find for yourself. But I want to share you a story of, first, a recent experience I was blessed with to gather a huge number of these spirit parts that needed to be gathered and returned. This is, I have learned my role. I fulfill the role of gatherer. And so just this last week, my husband, I'm actually going to share a story about some of his parts. He's been struggling a lot with some physical issues, and his job is very physical. He does appliance repair. So he was having a lot of troubles one day this past week and wasn't comfortable driving. So I drove for him, and we were at one of the stops. It was an absolutely gorgeous day. And I thought, well, I'm not going to sit in the car. We were by the Mississippi River. So I went out to stand by the Mississippi to see what I could gather for a story. And if you're familiar with the Midwest in springtime, it is very often extremely windy. So I'm standing on the banks of the Mississippi and my hair is just blowing all over, whipping against my face. And I do my best to pray and get myself settled to see what this land has to tell me and what I can gather that will help bring others unto Christ. I get myself a little bit settled to begin, and the Spirit speaks to me first. There are many who wish to be gathered, and there are many who wish to be saved. It's taking me a little while to get into this space, and as I start to do so, the guardian of the land comes up first. He comes just to my right where I'm standing, and he's skinny and small compared to all of the other guardians that I have seen so far. He doesn't seem to be that much bigger than I am. And he's a little gruff, as you would expect, because he is there to protect the space and he's not sure yet what my purpose is. So he says, "Who are you and what do you want?" And I calmly reply that I am here to gather. "Oh, yes, I see that. Okay, very well then." And with that, he is gone. And I think, well, apparently there are many other things that are much more important to attend to than me. And it takes me a few more minutes to get comfortable and confident and into a good mental space to be able to receive whatever it is that I am here to gather. And as I'm doing this, I hear someone say, "What is she waiting for?" That was my clue that everything was ready and I just need to decide that I was ready. So as soon as I decide that I'm ready to receive, I'm standing there with my eyes closed and I see that I am actually in the middle of a battlefield. Right in front of me, there are men in armor and they are fighting with swords. I'm not given to hear the sounds of the battle, I only see it. Someone cries out, "It's dangerous, get out of here." But I don't feel any fear. I simply stand there and wait, knowing that I am in this space for a purpose, and that purpose will shortly make itself known to me. I see the guardian of the space come back, and this time he's in armor and he's right in front of me and he is joining this battle. And then 2 young children come up to me. I'm guessing they're about 8 years old, and they come and stand by my side, one on my left and one on my right, and they ask for help for me to help get them out of there. I'm not sure where I'm going to take them, but I know that the best place to take a spirit or to help a spirit that you don't know what to do with is to bring them to Jesus, because he knows what is best for everything and everyone. So as I take them, I see behind me to my right, there's kind of like this open space, this open door that goes into a walkway that goes behind me and up. And the space back there is white and light and beautiful. So I put my hands on their shoulder blades and we turn and we walk up into that space. And I take them in to this beautiful white light. And I come back down to return to this battlefield. And as soon as I get here, it's like I'm standing to this entryway. It's very clear now that there's a door and there's this very clear passageway going up to the space where I just took these children. And it's all white and light and beautiful up there. And as I stand there, it's actually like this door is open away from me. There's a big white door with a doorknob on it. And as I'm standing there, more people than I can count come running through it. It's like a stampede of spirits. But instead of looking like actual human beings, they're all kind of like brown. It's like I don't actually see clear features of a human. And they all come and they stampede through it to escape the fighting and the space that they're in. And I step in behind them. And as I do that, the door slams shut. And the energy behind it is like a wave on an ocean. And it pushes me. And I go flying through the tunnel. And I fall down onto my hands and knees as I come into this space where everyone is. And I'm so overpowered by this. I don't even know how to describe the feeling, but I'm so overpowered by it, but that I just want to start crying. And I hear a voice tell me that I've done good work. And as I came back and pondered on this later, the Spirit said, "You saved my children." And so I know that this seems odd, but it is very real. And I have been given the blessing on this day to help save some of God's children and to bring them to Him and to bring these parts, these altars, to whatever place where it is that they need to go. Because for some reason, they have been unable to get out or to find freedom, and they needed to be rescued and shown a way out. As I'm standing here still contemplating this, the Spirit speaks to me again and says, "All are being gathered and all are being rescued. This was a rescue mission." Remember back in your early days when parts of you had to be rescued and gathered? I started learning energy work about 9 years ago now, in part to heal my own patterns of generational trauma. And one of the things that I did as I started doing that process was I had a lot of my own parts that had to be gathered. And I did it in the same way, intuitively through visualization, which you can practice and try to do and learn for yourself. And so I remembered that when I was doing these types of things, I had a specific spirit guide who would help me often, and we would go to different places to regain and bring back parts of my spirit that had been lost and needed to be integrated back into me. Sometimes I was able to go with him, and sometimes I was not because it was too dangerous and he would come back. And sometimes he would have to go to a spiritual hospital, and I would as well, to receive additional healing before those parts could reintegrate with me. And as I pondered all this, I just started to cry again because the Spirit was just testifying to me of the beautiful nature of this work, that this is the reintegration of souls that have been split for some reason. That I now have the opportunity to go help and bring these parts and gather them back in. And that there are others who do the work to help them heal that they might need, like those with internal family systems and Keith Redford's Behind the Curtain or Behind the Veil work. You don't have to have experienced intense trauma to have parts as well. Like I mentioned, my husband's been having some physical troubles. He's been having a lot of problems up in his neck area, especially his upper cervical spine. And I did some work for him last week, and I integrated parts of him that had split off at age 5 and another part at age 17. And I always start my healing work with a prayer, and I went in and allowed the vision to come to me, and I followed the visualization to do that healing work. And these parts, I didn't even have to know what the specific trauma or experience was that he had that led to that separation. He didn't have anything that came to him. So the beautiful thing about this is you do not have to relive any past trauma to have this integration. You simply have to have a desire to be complete and whole and to let the Spirit guide you as you do the work. So regardless of what your challenges might be, if you are able to visualize, this is one way that you can reintegrate these parts. If you want some additional resources, this wonderful book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, is fantastic for healing. And also Peter Levine's work. Both of them do a lot of somatic or body integration type of work, because one of the things I've most definitely learned is that this trauma is stored in our bodies. And speaking about it, if you have the memory, may be helpful. But more often, what is more helpful than talking about it is allowing the sensations in your body, riding the wave of those sensations in a place where you feel safe to do so, allows the natural response to the trauma to be completed. The trauma cycle needs to be completed, and it's stored in your body. You can't complete a cycle by talking about it. Like I said, talking may help, but you have to complete the cycle by allowing your body to physically finish processing the hormonal cycle of that stress and that fear and whatever those emotions are. So if you need a place to start, sit with what your body is feeling and see what it is telling you. It is always communicating to us because our body is made of intelligences. Again, if you enjoyed this and found this helpful, please share it with someone. Also, I have another invitation for you. If you are a Christian seeking for more truth, if you feel you have spiritual gifts that maybe aren't quite accepted or mainstream and you want help developing them and developing your relationship with your Savior, come to my school community where we work on this every day. As always, thanks for listening, and I'm excited to see you next time.